Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode. As always, wherever in the world you're listening to us from, whatever platform you're listening to us on, thank you guys so much for all the support, everything that you send to me, everything that you send to the show. I love having all those interactions with you guys, and I love hearing about all the things that are happening in your coaching journey and hearing about things you got going on or things that are taking place with you that you want to hear conversations about or have, me pick your brain about or pick my brain about. So love those interactions. Keep those coming, guys. And let's just jump right into it. I'm very happy to be joined by a previous guest here who has joined me before. So it's always so much fun to bring somebody back on and get their insights and get their thoughts again, especially with this topic with my guest who is going to talk about starting over and the process of going in and building a new program. And I think that this is one that's definitely applicable for you listeners who maybe have coaching experience and maybe are in the process of taking over a new spot, because I know that that's where some of you guys are at. Maybe for whatever reason, it's been time for a change and you're looking at something new, or you just took over something new and you're kind of going through that process of kind of starting over again, thinking about what you're taking from previous stops to now, or what experiences that you have or things that you want to do day one or week one or month one that maybe you didn't know about when you were first starting to coach. So we're going to really kind of jump into that process of what it looks like to be starting over, to building up a new program and hitting the ground running somewhere fresh and somewhere new. So let's get started with my guest today, who is the head boys basketball coach at Willow Ridge High School. Very happy to be joined by Coach Carp again. Coach, again, thank you so much for coming back on and joining us. How are things been?
Appreciate you having me. Things have been great, man. Just been working out with the guys at the school, trying to get them better, ready for next season.
So Coach, let's start with where it is that we last left off a couple years ago. Talk us through about where the change came and why the change came to Willow Ridge, and what made you kind of think it was time for a change, and what made the Willow Ridge job specifically one that you were interested in.
So the previous 3 years, I was the head coach at Royal High School in Brookshire, Texas. It's a small 4A school, maybe 20 minutes west of Houston. And so there, all 3 years, we made the playoffs. Every year we got better. My last season there, we were co-district champs. I was fortunate enough to be co-coach of the year. We finished the season with 8 dudes on the roster. All of them got honors, end of season honors. Like we had the 2-time district MVP, defensive MVP, 2 first team all district guys, 2 second team all district guys, 2 honorable mention guys. So it was a very successful year. But my family was moving to the other side of town. We actually moved to Missouri City, Texas, which is probably like an hour and 15 commute from where I was working.
Oh yeah.
And I just didn't want to make that drive every day, coming and going, especially during the season. And it just so happened that the Willow Ridge job opened up. And it's a very historic program here in Houston. Some of its alumni who made it to the league. TJ Ford graduated from there, Daniel Ewing. They won the state title with those guys. So it's a very historic program, a great opportunity to lead, a program like that. And it was in the district that I had left. So it's in Fort Bend ISD. I had previously been the varsity assistant at Fort Bend Travis. I left the district for the opportunity to become a head coach. And a goal was always eventually get back in the district. And so everything just kind of aligned itself, perfectly. It's a great fit personally for me and my family, and it's a great fit professionally, being able to lead a program like that.
I get the sense just from the way that you described kind of the pedigree and kind of the history of Willow Ridge that is probably a job that was pretty competitive. There was probably a lot of people who were really interested in it, or there was probably a lot of buzz and applicants to it. So I'm kind of curious for you, like, what is it that you think that you were able to say in that interview? What is it that you think that you were able to communicate to the athletic director and other stakeholders that you think really kind of let them know like, okay, this is the guy that we want for that job?
I think it was quite a few people that went after it, but in recent years, it's kind of been on a decline, so to speak. Like unfortunately, I think I'm like the fourth head coach in maybe a 5 year span, maybe if I'm not mistaken. And that's tough. You know, it's hard to have success when there's constant turnaround like
Sure.
that, and
Change, yeah.
you can't really build upon that. And then the interview process is a little bit different kind of process. Like the initial interview, I had to create and submit a video. You know, how do I define class and character? Um, and then after that, there was I guess, a final round of in-person interviews, and I had to give a presentation during the interview. So it's a little bit different format interview-wise. Uh, but you know, I just was my authentic self, if that makes sense, and spoke about how holding kids accountable is very important, and making sure you have standards and expectations in place, and having procedures in place that is conducive to building success. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that probably that, in addition to the success I had at Royal High School, which again is like a very similar program, I think probably gave me the a step above everybody else, I would guess.
Now, I'm gonna circle back to the turnover as we kind of talk about the starting over process of building a program. But before I do, I wanted to kind of pick your brain on something that's a little bit, off that topic, and something that I've had a few listeners kind of ask about, and I thought it would be a good kind of opportunity to pick your brain and get your thoughts, Coach, on this. And that is on the concept of late game situations when games are close at the end, when things are tight, and maybe the pressure's on, and your players are kind of feeling it at the end. What are some things that you do to kind of prepare and practice and kind of get your team ready to execute at the end of the fourth quarter during a close game?
So we try to make our practices as competitive as possible. Like we want the majority of the drills to be competitive and have a consequence if you're on the losing side of it, just so that there's weight to it, to make them even more competitive. And part of that process is a segment for situational basketball. You know, like we're down one, our ball baseline out of bound, 10 seconds left. You know, this is what we're gonna run, or we're down three, a minute and 15 left. We need to stop, and like essentially stop, score, stop. But we'll rep scenarios like that. One, so they can have those experiences, but also so we could see what we want to do in those situations. Like on my call sheet, there's a certain section for it for special situations. It'll be like less than 10 seconds, down two, or less than 5 seconds, we need a three. And then I try to have like two or three things that we can do in those scenarios. Um, and so then we'll rep that at practice. So there's some familiarity with it. So when we get in the game and get in those situations, it's not anything new. Like it's not like something we're drawing up on the fly, and they haven't seen it before, right? It's something we
Mm-hmm.
practice. It's something we've repped. It's something that should be familiar with them, so that we have a better chance of executing that. Plus, if all goes well in practice, we execute it and we do it, and so it kind of builds their confidence in in the situation or in the moment, because it's something that we've done before in a live situation, even though it was
Right.
at practice. But I like to have like two or three different things for each category. Only because if we use one early, I might not go back to it, later in the year. Have something else in my back pocket just for scouting purposes, so people don't know, like, okay, in this situation, this is what they do. Just so we can kind of catch somebody off guard.
You talked about that you like keeping drills competitive. Do you have any favorite drills, things that really like to teach a lot that the players really get into competitive drill wise?
Uh, I try to change it up so it's not mundane and it's the same thing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we'll do like 5-on-5 get back, five guys across the baseline, five guys across the free throw line. We throw it to your guy. You got to touch baseline before you get back. So we'll do that a lot to work transition defense, but they'll get up and down for maybe like two or three trips during that segment. Another thing we do, excuse me, is we'll do tip drill. So like everybody is in a line and they alternate, blue team, white team, and they tip it off the glass. And when I say go, whoever has the ball in their hand, now you're going in transition the other direction. Just trying to create an advantage in that
Mm-hmm.
scenario. But like I said, like we just try to change it up and keep everything competitive. And just so like you have to learn how to compete, right? Like that's
Right.
a skill that you have to learn. You also have to learn how to handle adversity. Like that's a skill set that you have to learn. It's very critical because in games, everything isn't always going to go your way. There's going to be times where you're struggling and you're going to have to fight your way through that. So we just try to put them through those scenarios during practice so they can learn, how to fight through adversity and how to withstand that and keep pushing. They can learn just how to respond in those moments because it's a skill set that you have to teach and it's definitely something that you have to develop.
I think that to your point, the nice thing about those competitive drills when you do them in practice or you have things that are competitive in your practices is you really get to see which players respond well to that competitiveness, which ones respond, well to potentially losing and who your leaders are. I think it's one of those things where if you can put them in that environment in a practice and you can kind of work through that and identify, okay, in my case, girls, right? These girls respond this way when there's a lot of pressure, and these girls maybe respond this way and have a certain level of confidence, while these girls have another level of confidence. I think as a coach, all that information is really valuable because you need all your players to be confident and able to execute, and you want to figure that out. I feel like early in your practices, which players are responding well to those environments, and really make sure that the ones who aren't are kind of caught up to speed and make sure that they are ready because those moments are going to come during a game.
Yeah, you again, you're trying to build their confidence in those situations. But I mean, you're trying to also see who you can count on, right? You got to put five guys out there that you can trust. Fourth quarter game on the line, you need to stop. You got to put dudes out there that you're going to trust. Or one possession game, your ball. You got to have your best five dudes out there that you trust to execute what it is that you're trying to do. So just practicing that and repping that at practice helps you see, who can respond in those moments, who, might fold in those moments, so to speak, or who needs to be developed more in those scenarios. But like big picture wise, it gives you this blueprint for
Hmm.
if that situation pops up, you know exactly who you want out there and what you want to do. Given the circumstance, like, somebody may be in foul trouble and can't be out there or whatever the case, which is part of the reason why you got to develop all of them in those scenarios.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I've been there. I had that situation. I remember when I first started coaching where I had some end of game situations that I came in and all of a sudden I look and three of my girls, two of them were in foul trouble, two of them fouled out, one of them got hurt. And so I had five girls that were on the court and two of them I had a lot of trust in, but I was like, "Oh man, I don't know if I really prepared those other three." And man, it ended up showing at the end of the game when we ended up committing a turnover. I was like, "Oh, okay, I got to make sure everybody's ready," like you said.
yeah, you don't want to. Like my thing is, I hate not being prepared.
Yep.
So as much as we can prepare, and I feel like the more prepared they are, the more confident they are, and the more confident they are, the better they're going to perform out there on the court. Um, and again, not everybody on the roster is going to like realistically. If you have a 12-man roster, you probably got maybe a 7, 8-man rotation, maybe.
Hmm.
So you still have to develop everyone in that situation because again, you never know when somebody's going to be in foul trouble or when somebody's going to be hurt or whatever the case may be. You got to prepare for every situation. And the more you
Yep.
prepare them, the more confident they are, especially if it's a younger dude. Like if you got, like we had two freshmen on varsity this year. So preparing them in those situations at practice starting year one is only going to help them by the time they become seniors and those pressure moments, happen.
No, 100% agreed. Coach, let's talk about this process of when you took over at Willow Ridge. So, I wanted to start with what is it that you took from previous stops and previous coaching positions that you immediately brought over to Willow Ridge? How did you kind of go through the process of figuring out like this is what works for me and I'm definitely bringing this over versus maybe some of this I'm going to leave behind or do a little wait and see approach? How did you kind of decide that? And what did you make sure that you brought over coaching philosophy wise when you took over?
So it was kind of a special situation and really almost kind of like started from scratch because again, it's of the so much turnover that had happened. And so, like, I knew going in, it had become a situation where there was little to no accountability and very little structure, right? Like I just talking to the campus ADs and people on campus, they had expressed that it was in real need of a culture shift, culture change, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew off top that accountability was going to be a big issue that we had to stress and emphasize. Excuse me, because like you have to hold kids accountable in order to get the best out of them. It can't just be like you come and go whenever you want, or you think you're gonna be able to do whatever you want. Like I can't operate like that. It's not gonna work.
Sure.
You have to come in and know that you're gonna be held to a standard. There's gonna be certain expectations, and then when you don't meet those expectations, you're gonna be held accountable for it. And you just have to stress like all those minor details day in and day out. Because at the end of the day, you are what you emphasize. So if you just emphasize it one day and then not the next day, and you let it just slide and slide, eventually the norm is going to be that they can get away with that.
Mm.
So one thing coming in, I really wanted to focus on accountability and teaching them accountability, and just so it helps build our culture and help build our uh, preparation, so to speak. So like when I got introduced to the players, one of the very first things I told them was, everything you want is on the other side of hard. It's on the other side of hard work. It's on the other side of persevering through hard times. And it's on the other side of choosing the hard right over easy wrongs. Right. So those three things, like you're going to be held accountable for in our program. Like hard work off top is a non-negotiable. Like your work ethic communicates if you want a roster spot or not, or your work ethic communicates what roster spot you're gonna get, JV, varsity, or whatever. And I told them like day one, like no one is entitled to a roster spot. Everyone will have an opportunity to earn a roster spot. Earning a roster spot doesn't entitle you to minutes. Minutes will be earned by how you practice day in and day out, and ultimately how you perform, in games. So I think just setting that standard and that expectation was very critical, so they can grasp like the importance of being accountable to each other, and being accountable to the program. And like
Yeah.
I talk about adversity all the time. Being able to handle hard well, because what I tell them is how you handle adversity now within the context of basketball is going to determine the quality of team that we can be, because we're not always going to be ahead. Sometimes things aren't going to go our way. We're going to have to play from behind. But big picture, how you handle adversity later in life is going to determine the type of man that you are. So it's important that we learn how to handle hard better. Like you got to be able to fight through adversity and keep pushing and not hang your head when those difficult times come, because your life is going to be filled with adversity. Your basketball career is going to be filled with adversity. If every time adversity hits we fold, we're not
Yeah.
giving ourselves a chance to be successful. We have to be able to handle those situations, fight our way through it, keep pushing, come out stronger on the other side. And the more we're able to do that, the better prepared we are for the next time when adversity hits. So that was another thing that I expressed to him, and another reason why we try to make practices as competitive as possible, so they can learn how to navigate through those situations. And then the last part of that equation is choosing the hard right over the easy wrongs. And every campus is different. It has their own, you know, uh, situations that they deal with, so to speak. And so I just wanted to make it clear to them, like, you can't be a problem. You can't be a headache in the classroom. You can't be a headache in the hallways and think you're going to come out here and be successful on the basketball court. Like, you have to choose the hard right over the easy wrongs. It's a habit that we have to work on and we have to
Mm.
build. So you're making better decisions. Like, I firmly believe we're not a product of our circumstances. We're a product of our choices. So if you're constantly in circumstances that you don't want to be in, the common denominator in that are the choices that you made that led up to that. And so for our program and the community that we service, it was very important to develop them not only on the court, but we got to develop them off the court as well. We got to meet the kids where they're at in order to get them to where they need to be. So a big part of that, big picture wise, is developing them as the person so that they can become a better basketball player, which is ultimately what we're trying to do so we can be the best program we're capable of being. And so I expressed that the first team meeting. I expressed it at the parent meeting that I had with, and throughout the year, I would reiterate it. And it's just trying to build good habits and eliminate any habits that hinder success, so to speak.
Mm. Did you find that it was a bit of a challenge to maybe get your players to buy into your coaching philosophy when there's so much coaching turnover and coaches are coming and going? Sometimes I imagine players are kind of unsure, like, hey, is this coach really gonna be here for a while? Is this gonna be another one and done situation? Did players kind of buy into your vision right away? Or did you feel like there was a bit of a earn it process where you really had to kind of earn your guys' trust?
No, it's a process, because again, I think my seniors, I was probably their third or fourth head coach that they've had since they've been there. So you're not going to get that off top. That's something that you're going to have to earn. And it was a gradual process, but like two things. One, and probably and the most important thing is building relationships. Like you have to build relationships with your players, um, and let them know that you care about them as the individual, not just them, the basketball player. And the more they know that you care about them, the more that you know you're gonna do everything you can to help them be better. The more buy-in you're gonna get, the stronger the relationship is between you and the players. The more buy-in you have, and ultimately, the harder they're gonna work for you as the coach. So it was a process of building relationships from the moment I got the job and was introduced to them,
Hmm.
and talking to them and just building those relationships. But it's also you gotta, again, you are what you emphasize. So when someone messes up and you hold them accountable, they see that they're actually being held accountable, and so now it's like, okay, yeah, he means what he says. He's gonna hold us to a certain standard. So I need to buy in and conform, or I'm not gonna be here.
When you are when you're talking about um, that relationship building process and building that trust, is that something that you're consistently focusing on year round? Is that something that you kind of have to always emphasize as a coach? I ask because I know for me, I know when I was younger, I fell into some traps of like thinking I had established culture, built relationships early, and then, didn't think a lot about it. And then I realized like, oh man, like maybe my players don't like trust me as much in the middle of the year because I haven't really kept up with those relationships. Is relationship building something that you're continuously working on with your guys?
Yeah, it's a never-ending cycle. Like you can't stop building the relationship. I think it's just something that naturally and gradually happens over time. Again, most of our program comes from football. So some of the guys who are in the gym year round, it's easier to build those relationships year round. And then some of the other ones who play football, you get them as football season ends, and they're kind
Hmm.
of coming in late. Like our season has already started by the time that they get to us. But it's something that you have to continuously do and work. And it's little things like we do grade sheet reports and we check grades, weekly. So little things like, hey man, why are you missing an assignment in this class? Or, I know you were struggling with this class. How's it going? Anything I could do to help? But if you're informed about what's going on in their day-to-day life outside of the context of basketball, then they start to see that you genuinely want to see them succeed both on and off the courts, and that ultimately helps you build those relationships. Another dynamic of that is like when we have open gym or things of that nature, and you're there, and like, nah, I'm old. I'm old now, so but I'll get out there for a game or two, but just so they see you out there, playing over. But things like that help build those relationships and help nurture those relationships. Because again, the more you can build it and the more you can develop that trust and just develop a genuine relationship with them, the harder they're going to end up working for you in the long run.
You mentioned earlier, Coach, about some of the aspects of establishing culture. You emphasized and zeroed in on words like accountability and work ethic. Are those things that you've taken from previous stops? Are those things that you went and were part of your previous stops that you had as a coach and were fundamental to what you're doing now? Or are there tweaks or adaptations that you made to the process of building a culture? Kind of talk a little bit about, where these ideas of accountability and work ethic and some of the other things you mentioned came from.
It's kind of like learn and adapt, right? Like when I was a varsity assistant, I was at Fort Bend Travis. This place has been successful since they've opened. Coach Bronson does a great job there. And so it's a little bit different dynamic than going to like a Brookshire Royal or going to like a Willow Ridge where they haven't
Hmm.
had as much success, right? Because like success, it takes what it takes. You're not entitled to success. You don't deserve success. You earn it day in and day out with how you work and the things that you do. And one thing I got from working with Coach Bronson at Fort Bend Travis was just seeing how a well-run program should look, right?
Hmm.
Like, because I mean, that we had teams while I was there, maybe go like 3 rounds deep in the playoffs. I think we won district maybe 2 years that I was there. We're co-district champs another year, so it was very successful. So being able to be there and see that and getting ownership within the program while I was there, it kind of helps you build your idea of how you would like your program to be run once you get that opportunity, right? So a lot of what
Right.
I do is mirrored off the things that we did at Fort Bend Travis. You just have to kind of adapt it to where you're at currently. Like it's not gonna look like what it looked like at Fort Bend Travis isn't gonna look the same at a Brookshire Royal, and even that doesn't look the same how it is at Willow Ridge, right? You have to adapt to the clientele that you're serving.
You mentioned something that I did want to bring up, and you talked a little bit about player buy-in, but you also mentioned that you had a parent meeting. Did you have to go through kind of the same, I guess, process of kind of relationship building and building trust of parents? Were parents kind of in the same boat of, okay, here's another coach coming in, like how do I know that, that this coach has my player's best interests in mind? What kind of went into making sure that the parents were kind of bought into your vision and believed in what you were doing?
When dealing with parents, I think you just have to be upfront and honest and um, communicate your expectations and how things are gonna look. Uh, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't really have too many parent problems. I think the parents. Now, I'm not saying that every parent in our program likes me. That would be a lie. I'm sure some of them don't care for me not playing their son as much as they would like, right? But I think if you're just honest and communicate. And when I say honest, I mean like you're gonna have to communicate some harsh realities to parents, right? But I think that open communication and that honesty ultimately leads them to respecting you because they're not always gonna like you. Like they might like you one day, but as soon as their son isn't getting whatever they feel that they're entitled to, then that attitude is going to shift. So as long as you openly communicate with them and let them know that this is the expectation, this is what earns someone playing time, these are the behaviors that don't earn you playing time. I think there'll be a sense of respect there, and then also, when kids are going to talk about you at home about how you are as a coach. So if you're building relationships with the kids and you're genuinely trying to help them be successful, the kid is probably going to convey that to the parent. And I think that helps in the process of establishing those parent relationships.
Hmm. No, no, no. And I completely agree. I think that one of the things too that I've really learned is, you get out in front and you have those conversations with parents early and kind of establish those expectations early and you're very upfront and very transparent. And I think, even if parents maybe don't necessarily like some of the decisions you make, they understand that you're being perfectly transparent and you're being, very honest with them. And I think all parents appreciate, honest and direct communication, even if it isn't the most positive conversation or even if it isn't necessarily what that parent wants to hear. At least they know that, you're being honest with them and it's coming from a place of respect. And you already had that, meeting or conversation with that parent at the beginning of the year that you've already kind of established how everything's going to be. So at least they have that idea that, okay, at least I know that my kid is being treated fairly and given, a respected chance, even if I don't necessarily agree with what the coach said.
Absolutely. Like, Like hell hath no fury like a parent whose child doesn't get whatever they feel they're entitled to,
Getting some
right? Like
flashbacks.
like Lord forbid they have to face and learn and grow through adversity, right? And like I talk about communicating harsh realities. I know everybody wants to play, right? I know everybody wants to play all 32 minutes. Everybody wants to score 20 plus points a game. The harsh reality is that's not going to happen. Like it's it's just not. So you have to communicate and like be almost like brutally honest with expectations and how things are going to be, because the more open and honest that you are, again, the more it kind of hinders any negativity or any extra negativity that might be there, because everybody wants their child to play. Everybody wants them to play the majority of the game and do the best that they can. But players and then they kind of convey it to parents. They operate from the mindset, man, if coach would just give me a chance, I'll show him.
Hmm.
But I think as coaches, we operate from, well, if you would just show me, then I would give you a chance. Like every day at practice, you have an opportunity to show me, and you have an opportunity to earn minutes. And you might do everything right, right. There's just might be somebody better than you. And that's a harsh reality to face. But at the end of the day, that's the situation. And I'd rather be upfront and honest and say that than say something that sounds good and now there's a misconception about what the situation really is and an unrealistic expectation about
Hmm.
about what's going to happen. You kind of got to rip the band-aid, so to speak, and just be open and honest with the communication, so they know that you're not doing anything intentional against their child, right? Like I know people think coaches try to lose games, but we don't. We want to be successful and we want to win, and ultimately we make decisions that we feel are best for the program and the best decision that we can make in that moment. And you don't have to like our decision. You don't have to agree with our decision. You don't have to like how we evaluate your child. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but everybody is not entitled to their own facts. And I think part of that
I like that.
is,
Yeah.
I think part of that is what you value as a program, talking about on court performance. Like, what are you charting during games? So, like for us, we chart hustle stats. So there's different categories like deflections, steals, dives for loose balls, assists, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, things like that are things that we consider winning plays. It has a certain point value. So every time you do that in a game, you get a certain amount of points for it. And then things like a live ball turnover, a dead ball turnover, a missed free throw, those have negative impact on your score, right? Because those things aren't winning plays. They help us not get the result that we want. And so every game we chart hustle stats, and every game we have a defensive player of the game based on the hustle stats. And so when you start talking about, well, why am I not playing? Why am I not getting an opportunity to play? Well, let's pull up the hustle stats and let's see, are you making an impact when you get your opportunity?
Mm.
Like if there's goose eggs across the stat line for your hustle
Yeah, it
stats,
speaks for itself. Yeah.
like why do you need to be on the court? And I don't say that to be mean. I say that to say, if you want to earn minutes, do these things. This is it's very clear. You can do these things at practice, and because if you do it at practice, you're gonna do it in the game.
Hmm.
And so that's one way that we kind of, I don't know, like anytime a situation about minutes come up or players upset, that's one way we kind of walk through that about why you're not earning the type of minutes that you feel you're entitled to.
And it's a good way for players to know, like, these are the things they got to be demonstrating in order to play. Like, there's no like real mystery or guesswork involved. It They kind of know that these are the things that we chart. These are the things that we stat, and those players who demonstrate those things and do more of those things in practice are going to get more opportunities. So there's no mystery, or you can't really accuse a coach of having favorites or anything like that if it comes down to the things that are there on the stat sheet, or the things that are happening or not happening in a practice.
Right. And then like another ask or another dynamic of that is, so for every drill that we do when we get up and down, if let's just say we did a terrible job rebounding the previous game, we're going to emphasize that on this particular drill, right? So every time, like I'll assign one of the assistants, hey, if you see anybody not box out or if you see anybody not crash for a rebound, put them on a towel. Like we do towel pushes to hold them accountable during practice. So if you catch it, Like focus on this. If you catch it, put them on a towel. No, obviously, nobody wants to do towel pushes. So now their mind is thinking, okay, I better box out. I better crash. But that is something that we chart during games that helps us be successful. Another drill we may, hey man, if you see somebody turn the ball over, but like maybe one game we had way too many turnovers and that cost us the game. If you whoever turns the ball over, put them on a towel, or whoever doesn't sprint back in transition, put them on a towel. But it's a thing about one breaking bad habits and 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 developing good habits to help us be successful. But two, it's like these are the things that we chart. These are the things that we feel help us be successful. These are the winning plays that we want to see on game day. So this is what we're going to emphasize in practice. And if you can execute it in practice and show
Hmm.
us that you can do it, ultimately that is what's going to earn you like minutes on game day.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very like direct correlation. Do this, and then you'll get rewarded with this. No, that's no, I 100% agree. I wanted to ask Coach about what you brought over offensively and defensively. Obviously, with player personnel being different, things may look a little bit different. But did you find that you were taking a lot of your offensive and defensive principles from your previous stops, and then you were bringing them over to Willow Ridge? Were there things that you had to completely change? What was that process like?
No, we had to change stuff. Or going into year one of Willow Ridge was vastly different than like year three at Royal. Only because, year three at Royal, you've had time with them, you've built up certain standards, certain expectations of how you want to play, and certain things that you've put in. Year one at Willow Ridge, it was kind of we had to scale things back, so to speak. Like I'm a Princeton guy. If I could, I would run Princeton actions, and that would be be what we did. But it's hard to do that when the majority of your program is coming from football and they're coming over like once your season is started. So there's certain principles that we utilize within the Princeton office, but we also have incorporated some pistol like the pistol series. We've incorporated some of that as well, and just kind of change things from how I did it at my previous school. One, because our personnel is different, and two, just because the time that we've had with them.
Right.
Now going into year two, now we got certain principles in place. We can expand upon that and kind of I don't want to say open up the playbook, but just expand on things a little bit and be a little bit more. I don't know, have a little more options, so to speak, in what we do offensively. Defensively, it was a little bit different also at Royal. My last year there, we ran a 2-2-1 press and we ran and jumped at half court or once the ball passed half court. But going into year one at Willow Ridge, we kind of just for us it was better to be like a diamond one press, only because of our personnel, and then just play man defense zone occasionally. But we had to cater to the players that we had, and I
Right.
had to adapt and be like, okay, this, I want to do this, but can't do that right now. We got to develop them, and we're gonna have to do this for this year. And part of it is developing their IQ. Part of it, again, is developing the winning plays that we want to see, and just having time to be able to work with them. Like now that I have guys coming back and they've been in the program for a year, I feel we can expand upon things offensively and defensively. But it was definitely an adjustment, adapting to the personnel. Like you have to, like I know everybody probably has their own system that they would like to run, but you have to adapt to the kids. Like you have to meet them where they're at in order to get them to where they need to be. And so for us, year one was just scaling things back a little bit and maybe not be as in depth as we would have liked to been, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. I totally get that because you're dealing with a different right population, and like you said, there you might not have as much time, especially year one with your guys as you would want. So I think that's tough as a coach though, is like you know what's worked, right, at previous stops, you know the things that you like to do, but if your guys aren't in a position to be able to do that successfully, you're putting them in a worse position by trying to kind of force a system that isn't going to work for them in. So I think that process of like figuring out this is what we can do now, but now that you've had another year of them, maybe now we can start incorporating this. I mean, that speaks to a lot of patience on your end to be able to, I'm sure there's a lot maybe you wanted to do your first year, a lot you wanted to put in or incorporate, but you also have to balance that with knowing like here are the constraints and time restraints I have on me, so I have to, keep that in mind as well.
Right. Like the X's and O's might look different, but the habits and the way you teach it, that doesn't change, right? Like we still do single sided games to rep stuff and work stuff. We still have segments where we, like get up and down the court and compete. We still have segments where maybe we break it down, and we might spend a little bit more time on that only because it's new to them. And then once they grasp it and get better at it, we can spend less time on that and more time on the single sided games or more time on the competitive drills, so to speak, getting up and down the court. So the X's and O's may look different, but the
Hmm.
process of getting there doesn't change, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. What, if anything, has changed in terms of practice planning for you? Kind of talk about what your, practice plans kind of look like, and how much of your practice planning is stuff that you've carried over from previous stops, and how much of it are new things that you put in or things that you've kind of adjusted based on the fact that obviously your personnel is different and the situation you're in is different.
Yeah, so as far as the structure of practice, it's pretty much consistent with how we did things at Fort Bend Trashers when I was there. So off season wise, like each day is gonna have an emphasis. Like Monday, we'll have offensive emphasis. We'll work offensive skills and things that we're trying to, do offensively. Tuesday, maybe like a weight room day where we're in the weight room and we get shots up. Wednesday will be a defensive emphasis where we just work defensive drills, defensive skills, and things that we want to do defensively on game day. Friday is typically like a competition day. And then Thursday may be a day. In the past, it was always something specific, but going into next year, like where I'm at is a bit different because we're block scheduled, so I don't even get to see them on Thursdays. So I really
Oh,
have
that is
4 days.
different.
Yeah, I have 4 days throughout the week to work with them. So I'm kind of leaning towards changing things up a bit and maybe just implement weight room after school, like come in after school, get your lift in, and then that way we have an extra day on the court and utilizing that day. I would ultimately like to get to a point where we have one day where we just get shots up, like we're working on shooting and getting better by getting a whole bunch of shots up during the athletic period that particular day. But like you gotta adapt. Like every year, I try to think about, man, what can we do better? What do we need to get better at? And then like what plan can we implement to execute that. Going in year one at Willow Ridge, it was tough because I was the only coach in the gym until the season got there. Um, but going into year two, now my varsity assistant is on campus, so it'll be both of us in there year round, which helps because now you can do more. Now you can focus on more stuff, and just that dynamic alone is going to be very beneficial to us going into year two.
That's I'm still thinking about you said about having that day where like where you can't practice. What is that? What is that kind of like? What did that do for you as a coach? What was that adjustment like to have a day where you really like just don't see your guys?
It was definitely an adjustment because I'm used to seeing them 5 days a week, or at the athletic period, 5 days a week. But on third, because of the way the block schedule is set up, we don't have athletics on Thursday, so we don't see them. But the flip side of that is that on Wednesdays, when we do see them, the period's a little bit longer. So normally we got about an hour in the athletic period, but because of the block schedule on Wednesday, we got them about an hour and a half. So you
Mm-hmm.
just got to adjust and be more productive on that Wednesday because you know you're not going to see them that Thursday.
Right.
And same thing when we're in season. It was a big adjustment when we're in season. When you're in season, you want to see them every day as much as you can. So not being able to see them during the athletic period kind of had to adapt and change how we would do things. Because in season, during the period, normally we would rep like stuff that didn't go so well the previous game. Like, okay, we didn't do a good job rebounding. We need to work this, or we struggled, communicating the switch and the rotations when we're switching. We got to spend more time on shell hammering out these rotations, and
Mm-hmm.
then after school would be focusing on things to help us for the next game. Like okay, our opponent likes to play zone, so we're gonna work a lot of zone stuff offensively and work a lot of transition stuff to try to beat them down the court so they don't get set in that zone. Not having that athletic period that Thursday, you kind of got to adapt because now you got to do it. Now you don't have that extra hour per day to work stuff, so you got to less time to work what you would like to work, and
Sure.
it's just man, and it's just one of those things that you have to that you have to adapt to.
I guess you have no choice, right? You got to be forced to. You're gonna have to make it happen for sure. Um, what did you use last year, coach, to kind of measure success, right? You come from successful programs, you come from successful stops, and obviously if all the turnover and the fact that, Willow Ridge was in a bit of a difficult situation, success year one may look a little bit different than what it would have, somewhere else. So how did you kind of measure whether or not the year was going to be a success, and how did you feel that that first year went?
So for me, going into year one, so, well, I like to measure success, on and off the court. So for me, going into year one, I wanted to make an impact with them off the court and how they perform, in the building for the day to day while they're in class in the hallways. I wanted them to perform better on the court as well. So off the court, you know, um, different faculty members, different admin, other coaches in the building that coach other sports, they would let me know. It's like, man, this is very different than what it has been. Like they're to class on time. There's not as much, issues with them. They're performing better in the classroom. So stuff like that is great, right? That means we took a step in the right direction, and we could build upon that going into year two. Off the or on the court, man, my goal was to make them. It was an 11-year drought when I took the job. Now it's a 12-year drought of them making the playoffs. So a goal was to, hopefully get in the playoffs, and two more district wins, and we're probably in the playoffs year one. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But for year one, for me, was just establishing expectations, establishing procedures of this is how we're gonna do things from here on out, and you're gonna have to buy in because these are the things that helps us be successful. Like I tell them all the time, we don't get to choose what makes us successful. Our only decision is gonna be, are we gonna do what it takes to be successful, right? And I
Right.
tell them that I tell them that all the time. And so year one for me was establishing those expectations and those procedures that's ultimately going to lead us to success. And I think we've done a good job of that. I think we took a step in the right direction. Going into year two, again, making the playoffs is the ultimate goal, getting in there, only because it's been so long since the school has gotten in. Um, but there's other win an X amount number of non-district games, win enough district games to get in the playoffs, get a tournament win, like take home some hardware from a tournament. Those things are goals, like wins and losses wise. But for me, it's important to have success both on and off the court.
For you on the court part, what did you maybe need to do or have to do kind of year one to kind of keep yourself like just focused on the long-term picture? I think, as a coach, especially if you've had success, sometimes it's easy to maybe get impatient, or you really want to be at a certain point, but your guys just aren't there yet. They're improving, but as coaches, I feel like we always want more. We always have high expectations, and we always want to see that like tremendous success, like you said, like state playoff appearances and so on and so forth. So for you as a coach, how did you kind of maintain your kind of your patience and make sure that you maintain the course, even though obviously as coaches you want like all the success in the world you can have right away? How did you kind of maintain your patience and stay consistent with the long-term plan this past year?
Uh, Man, I think I just, again, coming from a successful program, you know what it takes. I've also been places where we haven't had much success before getting to Fort Bend Travis. So I've kind of been able to live in both worlds, so to speak. And so just knowing that it's a process and it takes time, right? Like you're not gonna come in and just be successful day one. Success, it takes time, and you have to weed out the negative habits and develop positive habits that ultimately lead to success. And so for me, just day in and day out was just a constant reminder that, man, you got to meet them where they're at, and you got to develop them and grow them every single day that they come down here. because again, everything it was like essentially starting from scratch. Everything was new to them, only because they haven't had those experiences because of the turnover at the school. So it was just honestly, it's just in my nature to kind of be patient and focus on the long run. Like to me, year one didn't go as well as I had hoped, right?
Hmm.
But all that struggle and all that adversity is only going to make, when we do turn this thing around and we do start becoming successful, is going to make that success that much more enjoyable, because we've been through the rough times to get to that success. Then we've built it essentially from the ground up, so to speak. And so it's just a constant reminder to just try and build positive habits with them on the court. Um, if you can get them to buy into things and build the positive habits, like the winning plays that we talk about, if you can get them to buy
Yep.
into making those winning plays day in and day out, eventually you're going to turn the corner and you're going to start seeing some success. So it's just a constant reminder that you got to keep pushing, keep fighting the good fight, because it might not have went the way we wanted to this year, but there's opportunity for growth and an opportunity to be even better next year. And once we turn that corner and do start having success again, it's going to make that success that much more enjoyable, having gone through the struggle.
Are you able to work on kind of the players that are coming into your program? Is there like a youth program or kind of feeder schools that you're able to like build? Because I know that a lot of coaches speak on that as a big part of success, is kind of building things up at that younger level and having guys come into your program who have some familiarity with you or the systems that you run. Is that anything that you've been able to work on, or have like any involvement in, is kind of building that younger youth level program?
So we only have one school that feeds into our high school,
Oh, that that,
and
that makes it simple.
yeah, and it's on the same plot of land that we're on, so it's easy to go over there and see them and see what they're doing. But I'll use like like right now as an example. We're in summer strength and conditioning, and so the seventh graders and eighth graders there will come over and work with us for strength and conditioning. Um, and so we get a chance to see them. They get to see us, and they get to learn, how we teach things and how we do things, so that when they do get to us, there's some familiarity there, right? It's not going to be perfect, but there's a familiarity there. They've seen it before, so it shouldn't be anything new to them. So that just getting them that, like, going into year one in the summertime, on any given day, we'd have like 5 to maybe 8 kids there, right? That's tough. But
Mm.
so far, strength and conditioning this year, we've had like 19 guys come. And it's a mixture between our varsity guys all the way down to some of the seventh graders who are at the middle school that will ultimately feed into us. So just having that dynamic and having them being able to practice with us, so to speak, to see the varsity guys that we currently have and see how they do, have them lead by example, is helpful and will ultimately help our program in the upcoming years.
And I imagine that's something that's got to be huge for kind of turning a program around, and sometimes in depending on the situation coaches are in, they're worried about losing their guys, or guys like going to different schools, or in different situations like that, or maybe there's like just this disconnect where coaches didn't put in the effort at the youth program. So I imagine for the middle schoolers, that's got to be exciting for them to know that, oh, okay, this coach is invested in me, and they're taking time to work with me, and the high school players are taking time to work with me, and just building that excitement, I imagine, so that they know when they come into high school that they feel more comfortable, they're excited, they kind of have some familiar faces that they know, and all that stuff. I think can only help with building the culture and building the program.
Yeah, I think things like that ultimately help keep them coming to our school, because some kids will leave and go to other high schools and not come to us. So I think part of that helps keeping them there and keeping your guys that are supposed to come to you actually enroll at your school. But there's other things that you can do. Like one of the things I want to do this upcoming season is have a middle school night where they can invite the seventh and eighth grade team over,
Mm.
and just recognize them at halftime. That way they, see a game, experience a game. Hopefully, we have a good turnout for the crowd there that night, so they can see what it's like when they get there. Just to kind of like leave, breadcrumbs, so to speak, to get you to come over here with us when you're done with eighth grade, because we're building something, and we want you to be a part of what we're building here. And if you spent like 2 years in our summer program working with us, then you kind of got your foot in the door already. And things like that will ultimately help develop your program, help increase your turnout, the numbers that you have in your program. And ultimately, if you want to be successful, you gotta do things like that in order to build the program.
You gotta build the excitement, right? You gotta build, especially for a program that maybe hasn't felt that level of excitement, or maybe there hasn't been a lot of excitement on the program. I think it's a real big point of emphasis as a coach. You got to kind of go above and beyond and make all of those things really important and really, really hype those things up. And it's almost like for y'all, like kind of a reminder to everybody in the community and the neighborhood that like, hey, Willow Ridge is still here. Like we're still, a big time program and we're doing big things and kind of getting that message out, not just to the current players, but the upcoming players, the parents, the community, just kind of blasting that message out far and wide.
Yeah, and another thing I did this past year is reached out to former alumni, and I
Mm,
had former players come and talk to the kids at various points throughout the year. Like we had a guy from one of the state title teams named Jamarcus. He came out and spoke to the team while we were headed to our first scrimmage. He actually came and saw and just spoke to the guys. And we're talking about guys that walked the same halls from the same neighborhood, that went off to play college ball. Some of them went off to play professionally, whether here in the States or in Europe. And so they've accomplished everything that you're trying to accomplish, and they're from the same place and walk the same halls. And I think it's good just to have those guys come back and fellowship with the team and just build those connections with the alumni. Again, it's a historic program. They've had, in the past, there was such a great program, in trying to rebuild that. I think it's good to reach back to the people that have been there and have experienced that success, just to speak, some good words into the kids that are currently there. We had another guy from the state title team named is Kenny. He he's always a presence within our program and speaks to the kids. He actually spoke at our signing day ceremony. We were, earlier you talked about how do you measure success. We had three
mm,
kids sign to play at the collegiate level for next season.
that's awesome.
And that was huge, right? And we had a signing day ceremony in the gym. The families got to come out, admin and the other kids came. And you could see that they really appreciate things like that, and having a guy like Kenny who played at UT, and I want to say he played in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, just come and speak and put some good words in their ear and let them know, that there's support from this community for them and what they're doing. They've accomplished something great by being able to play at the next level. But just recognizing those achievements, I think, goes a long way in helping to build your program, especially if it's something that they haven't experienced in a long time. Yeah, if they could see, the success, then they know there's something attainable that they can reach.
Awesome. No, no, that's really cool. And I think that I imagine the alumni have to be excited and about the stuff that you're bringing back and to feel connected because that's something that's going to happen when there's coaching turnover and alumni may feel that they're no longer a part of the program or that they're so far removed because it's been so many years and so many coaches. So I imagine those guys must have jumped on the opportunity to be able to come back and share some knowledge and get some excitement in the program.
Man, I think they say once an eagle, always an eagle,
Yeah.
and that's like, you feel the sense of pride that they have for the school and the sense of pride that the community has for the school. So it would be like a blessing if we're able to turn it around and start having success again, just so the kids who are there currently can get a fraction of what the alumni got when they were there and they were winning state
Hmm.
titles and they were successful year in and year out. Um, one of the first things I did when I got the job, I reached out to another alumni, uh, Dwayne Broussard. He's an assistant at TCU currently, but he's an alumni from Willow Ridge. And just to say, hey, I got the job. Anytime you want to come through and visit or talk to the kids, if it permits in your schedule, just let me know. You're more than welcome. But things like that, trying to get alumni members who, again, are either have experienced success with basketball or are currently still involved with basketball. Um, if you can get them to come back, again, everyone who I've spoken to thus far was more than willing to come back and talk to the kids and just speak to them. And I think that goes a long way into moving the needle, so to speak, and getting you down the right path to success, because they're hearing from people who come from where they come from and experience the things that they've experienced, and they've had
Mm-hmm.
success. And like, ultimately, if I'm trying to achieve what he achieved coming from these hallways, then when he speaks, I'm gonna listen, and he's gonna put a good word in my ear. And now they could see it, right? Because sometimes it's hard to see success, especially when you're struggling and you're chalking up like minor wins, so to speak. It's hard to see the long term. But if you can have like guys like that come back and speak and be a presence, now you can see it, and now it's more attainable. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. No, that's really cool, and just excites me, invigorates me even more as a reminder to go reach out to some of my former players. I feel like I do a good job, but I just wrote down a note. It's like, there's a few more I got to connect with and bring back a little bit more, because every time I do, it's the players are even excited. No matter, it doesn't even matter like what that alumni necessarily is doing basketball wise, if they went to play collegiately or not. I think just the fact that you can bring an adult to them, and somebody who was playing in that gym that they were, and can speak about how great of an experience it was. Like, it's to those players, the current players, those former players coming back, regardless of like what they're doing in life, it's like they're kind of like famous. They're kind of like these like rock stars. They're like, oh man, this is like a celebrity coming back and talking to me, which is it's just cool to see the current players kind of like faces light up, and how interested and excited they get to talk and interact and meet with somebody who was in their shoes years ago.
Yeah, it definitely helps with the buy-in. It definitely helps like build morale or lift morale, so to speak. Um, but again, I just think that's something that you have to do in order to not only build success but be able to sustain it. Like like this is year one for me, right?
Hmm.
Year 10, I would love guys from year one to come back and speak to the team and talk about the experiences they had when they were there, and have it
Yeah.
truly be like a brotherhood, where they're experiencing the same thing that you experienced when you were in the program, and you can come back and just be an example for them, like a positive example for them of what can be achieved if they put the work in necessary while they're here with us.
Yep. Coach, to wrap up, there's a couple of questions I ask every guest, but since I've had you on before, I'm gonna tweak them a little bit, make them a little bit more specific to the topic at hand. So this first one I'll ask you, Coach, is thinking back on this past year, was there a moment from this past year where you felt, okay, this program's on the right track, or you really felt like you're building things in the right direction? What was kind of a moment this past year that really made you feel that you were, on the right track with the program?
Uh, man, I don't know if it was really one specific moment. I just think like you could gradually see the shift in their work ethic,
Mm,
gradually see the shift in the buy-in, right? And again, we weren't that successful this year, but just like we had what I think three or four dudes earn district honors at the end of the season. We had two first team all district, two second team all district guys. Three of our seniors got an opportunity, are getting an opportunity to go play at the next level. So you could see a shift in the preparation, a shift in how they started to approach things. Um, Man, and I would say probably around like when district started, maybe a few games into district is when you started to notice a shift that we were kind of headed in the right direction, so to speak.
mm-hmm.
Just with their approach to things. I mean, again, success is a process. You have to build positive habits that ultimately lead to success. You got like one thing I've learned throughout this journey. You have to you have to learn how not to lose before you can learn how to win, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yep, I
And
like that.
so
Yep.
for the first few months, like in the summer and the first few months of school leading up into the season, it was really a process of getting them to learn how not to lose. Like all these behaviors that you have that have become norm, they're bad habits, and this doesn't lead us to success, right? And one thing I would tell them is like, you have to hate losing so much that you're willing to change, or you have to hate change so much that you're willing to lose. And if you hate change so much that you're willing to lose, you can't be on the bus. You can't be a part of the program. Like we are trying to turn this thing around and lead us to success, right? Not just for this year, but success for the years to come. And so early on, it was a process of just getting them to break bad habits that don't help you be successful. Um, and then, like when the season started, especially leaning into district play, you kind of see a shift in the work ethic, a shift in the mindset. And again, even though we ultimately didn't get in the playoffs, which was one of the goals, to have four guys earn district honors at the end of the season and three guys earn an opportunity to go play at the next level, that's success you can build off of going into year two and then year three and so on and so on.
Awesome, Coach. To wrap up, I'll give you the 60-second soapbox to kind of talk about. I'll let you go on whatever direction you want. What you want with, whether it's basketball wise, coaching wise. I'm gonna let you have your soapbox on any direction that you want to take this basketball or coaching wise that you want to leave the listeners with. So, Coach, again, I'm gonna give you the soapbox and the floor, and I'm just gonna go ahead and let you take it from here.
Man, I don't really have a soapbox. I just want to give some encouraging words to guys who are maybe looking for their first opportunity to be a head coach. I remember what that was like. It seemed like every year for like 4 years, I would get multiple interviews, but it was always a no, you know. But man, just keep pushing, keep being an asset where you're at and doing quality work where you're at because it doesn't go unnoticed and it's ultimately gonna open up doors for you. Um, and when you do get your opportunity will eventually come. Like, don't, I know that's hard to say in the moment when you're constantly not getting the opportunity, but just keep pushing, keep doing a great job where you're at. And I would also say, just to expand your network of friends within the coaching, within the coaching world. Like, I would say there's three type of coaches that you should associate and be friends with and build genuine relationships with. The first is a coach who's currently where you're at, because y'all are going through the same thing and y'all can lean on each other when you need to, when times aren't going exactly how you want them to go. The next would be a coach who's where you want to be. So if you're trying to be a head coach, it would be a head coach, and not just your head coach. Find other head coaches that you can build a relationship with, who can give you advice on how to get there, and maybe even ultimately help you get there. And then the third type of coach to make friends and build relationships with is somebody who's trying to be where you're at, maybe like a first year coach or a freshman coach who wants to be a lead assistant so one day he can be a head coach. But build relationships with those people also, because just like someone can help you get to where you're trying to be, you can help them get to where they want to be, and you can give them advice on how to get there, and tell them about your journey and help them with their process. And man, I just, for anybody out there looking for an opportunity, just keep doing a great job where you're at, being an asset to your program, because ultimately you're going to be in the spot that you're supposed to be in.
That's awesome. Real encouraging words, Coach. I appreciate you sharing that because sometimes I know for some coaches or wannabe coaches out there, sometimes it can get a little bit discouraging. But no, I love that advice, man. There's a lot of us out there who are definitely willing to help and get people going on this coaching journey and get them into it. So I appreciate you sharing that. And again, Coach, really appreciate you coming on talking about your your start. I know it's just the beginning of what you got going on here at Willow Ridge, but I do really appreciate you coming on, talk about what you've done so far in year one, what you're looking to continue to do. It sounds like, and I can tell it's already been a really successful year, and it sounds like you're ready to keep going and make it happen for year two and beyond. So, Coach Carp, again, really appreciate you coming on, joining us. Best of luck, and we'll definitely come back and talk again and see how things are going down the line as you continue to build towards the future. Appreciate it, Coach.
I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you guys so much for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.